So we talked on the podcast a couple weeks ago that I chose to take Miranda to a 311 concert that we had planned for months and months and months, a band that she loves. I chose to go to that instead of hunt that opening day cold front.
Pretty early for a concert, 311.
It's pretty good, Dad.
Thanks for watching, everybody.
Yeah. This segment of DoD TV is brought to you by Leupold, American to the core.
What's up, everybody? Welcome back to the Drury Outdoors 100% Wild podcast. This is episode number 230. You're Matt Drury.
You're Tim Chelsvik, and we have old man winner Terry Drury with us.
Whoa.
Whoa.
Hi,
in
Cotton.
Studio in the season.
He's not zooming.
Oh,
I'm here.
You know why? You know why he's here? Because it's hot out.
Yes.
Because DeerCast says pour for basically 5 days straight.
You got that right. And
So,
it has been. It's
yeah.
been poor. And we're going into dark of the moon. So shooters have not been walking. I mean, our cameras have been pretty bad.
When I see them, it's interesting. We talk about it all the time, but with these cell cameras, I feel like I have a better knowledge of how it correlates with DeerCast. It just makes more sense to me now. Because when we would check them previously, it might be weeks after the movement happened, and I'm too slow, so I couldn't put that together. But now seeing it, okay, they're real time. They're moving at night. They're moving in the, 3 a.m., 2 a.m. And as it changes, as the moon changes, it's not the only factor, but, then you hit a cold front or the weather warms up and you really see it all put together. And look at that hourly in DeerCast. It's just like, it's almost a light bulb. I've said it a few times, and I got a couple good deer moving, but it is like 3 a.m., 4 a.m., not always, the last, several days in a row. So it's like, why waste your time? They're not moving during daylight.
Well, the whole process of acquiring pictures and then trying to study those pictures was somewhat counterintuitive back then, because it was week, 10 days, 2 weeks, 3 weeks. Some guys waited a month to look at those photos to see what deer they had, but it wasn't really current information. It wasn't MRI. So yes, cell cameras now give us MRI, and it really does tell you accurate information on when they're not moving, and they're simply not moving during daylight hours. If you've got a daylight walker right now, then by golly, when the weather changes and we start to get these little cold fronts that they're calling for and start to push through, then they need to be on him, and I mean to be on him heavy, hot and heavy, because there has been so few daylight walkers. So to find a daylight walker right now is hard to do.
Well, it's interesting.
It's real random.
Like the deer that landowner Doug killed, that mainframe 8, the real big one, we got him on Saturday on camera, but it was Saturday night. It was not long after sunset though. And then I think we got him on Sunday, and we didn't have him the next 2 nights, but all that was evening movement. But then that cool front hit. It wasn't really even a cold front. I mean, it was getting to like average temperatures for the time, maybe a little bit below average temperatures. But it was that change that got him up on his feet in daylight. And just so happened we had somebody there waiting for him. But I mean, it's other than that, we never had a picture of that deer in daylight, not once. So we got another deer we're pretty excited about, and he's always moving right at like last light, and then going to bed in the same spot right there in the morning time. So I feel like that's a deer, even though the moon's not right, that if we get a little bit of a cool front, he probably will show up in daylight,
Perhaps.
is what I feel like. Because he's right there. He's consistent. It's every day.
Yeah.
But it's just after hours.
Which that's the other thing. They don't move very far right now. I mean, once they shed their velvet and they did a little shuffling, like we had deer that we lost that we were seeing, on a camera every day in velvet, and then all of a sudden they disappeared. And then we've got other deer that we didn't have. All of a sudden they showed up. So there's quite a shuffle goes on when they drop that velvet. And then seeing those deer that you're talking about that are going to and from every day, there's a pretty good chance if you get the right weather and right moon, you could waltz in there and bop one.
Yeah.
You got any of those, Tim?
I've got one. We call him the safe buck.
Tell him how I got his name.
Matt called him the safe buck.
No,
because he's somewhere you hunt.
Yes. On social media last year, he had this. It's a beautiful deer, and he said, "Hey, what should I name him?" And I just sent him a message that said "safe." Turned out I was right last year.
So far, I'm letting him grow. But hopefully this year is the last. I think he's 5 this year.
Oh, he's a good deer.
He's
nice.
got a really tall G2 on his right side. Like, it's really tall. So I had my first actual encounter with him. I got him on camera a bunch last year, just never encountered him.
Mm-hmm.
And then last Saturday I was out and I saw him at 50 yards.
Oh, wow.
He was eating acorns over on the neighbor's side. I got pictures of him coming into my food plot right below my stand. So I think he, obviously he lives in the area, so it's just a matter of time before we have an encounter. The challenge is going to be, is the wind going to be right? Because he could come from the north, he could come from the
that's
south.
tough.
There's just so many different directions.
This is
he
a
accesses.
suburban spot too.
Yeah, it's 9 acres that I'm working with here.
Yeah.
So
So
pretty tight.
when you said he's on the neighbors, it's like, well, you look in any
You're
direction.
always hunting the
looking
line.
at the neighbors.
Pretty much. Yep. Hear the neighbor's dog
Oh,
barking.
you're that guy.
Get Wi-Fi from the house. I mean,
You knock on the door on your way out. You mind if I
can
get
I
your
have the password,
password?
please?
Having lasagna for dinner.
So it's just a totally different type of experience. But I would love. I mean, it was just exciting to finally see him in person.
That's cool.
So hopefully we can end this story this year.
Especially that age class, because it's so infrequent when a lot of those older deer walk. To see him during daylight is pretty cool.
Well, he's definitely tucked into a bedroom,
Yeah.
where he's hunting there.
Yeah, it makes it kind of sketchy getting in and out. But I don't think I bumped him yet. So just a matter of
Just a matter of time.
just
till
a
I do
matter of
that.
time before I either bump him or kill him.
Well, and that's a good scenario. We say that a lot. We're either going to bump them or kill them. That's usually around turkeys when we say it, though. Whitetails are a little different. But in a suburban setting like that, you would think they would be somewhat accustomed to seeing and smelling different odors, different fragrances, seeing people walking around, dogs barking, all that stuff you're talking about.
Yeah, I had an interesting experience with a doe who walked up the same trail that I walked in to get to my stand, and I put the wax stick nose jammer on my boots, and she was kind of smelling
That's good
along
stuff,
as she
by the way.
went. It's crazy. Like it really does something because she kept coming, but then she hit some weeds that were kind of overhanging the trail, and she started sniffing the weeds, and she stopped. And she started to
Did you brush
backpedal a
against
little
them by
bit.
chance?
I did.
Yeah.
And that's the thing, like the nose jam, like my boot tracks, she was fine with. But, and I'd sat in my, I wore my hunting clothes in the truck on the way over to the spot, which I'm not going to do again. Because I think that there was something residual on my hunting pants that, brushing up against the weeds, she picked up and she didn't like it and she backed out.
Burger King, maybe.
I mean,
Butterfinger.
Yeah, that's you're saying things that Tim
tater
doesn't.
tots in my
Tater
pocket.
tots.
Now, maybe it's a First Farm bar or a protein shake.
More likely along those lines.
In my truck, it would have been Burger King or Butterfinger
smells
or
like
Baby
a
Ruth, a Whopper.
So what else is on your to-do list right now, given that it's just not great time to be out in the stand?
We're still shuffling. I mean, we're still, right now we've been watering. I mean, it's been so dry.
yeah.
And I couldn't get my fire truck wasn't running. It runs, I'm sorry, but the brakes, I've got a switch for the emergency brake, and it won't release. It's an air brake. It will not release. So the truck is sitting in the middle of the farm there by the barn, and we can't get it to move. So what we do, we went out and bought a different tank, and we put it on our trailer, and we're pulling it with the pickup, but we're still watering, and we've been watering a lot, just trying to keep them alive, because
so
those
dry,
little small plants right now are so sensitive, and they're so water-based that, you get 2 or 3 days in a row of 92, 94, 95, they just burn up. So we've been trying to keep them moist, trying to do it early in the morning, late in the evening, so a lot of that moisture sinks down in there and keeps them alive until we can get another shower.
Which is supposed to be this week, which by the time this airs, it'll be the week that this airs, that we're supposed to get some rain.
Fingers
through.
crossed. Fingers crossed. I know we had a wind shift. We've had a lot of westerly winds, and I talk about this to several people, Forrest being one of them, that so many years, Mark and I, decades, it seemed like, that we set most of our sets up for westerly wind flows, southwest, northwest.
Yeah.
And then over the last 10 years, we've had a lot of easterly wind flows until last year and this year. We started getting those west winds again and getting them consistently, and a lot of them. Well, I wasn't hung for them up on the farm. I just didn't have many west spots. So we've been rehanging and moving and shuffling some things around for southwest southwest more so than northwest,
Which
and
is
straight west.
weird because we've
Straight
had
west.
a lot of southeast this year in our lease here near St. Louis.
We have not.
And
Today
and,
was the first southeast we've had in I don't know how long.
And the only reason I really honed in on that is because it's blowing right into where we don't want. It's like the one wind I don't want. Southwest I'll take all day, and really helps us. Southeast kind of screws us in a few spots. So I don't know why we're getting those in the St. Louis area quite a bit, but it seems like we have been.
Topography, structure, who knows? And a southeast for me is true as true can get. But boy, if I try and slip a southwest in a southeast spot, I frustrate myself every single time I try it. I'll climb, get up there, sit down, and I go, I know this is not going to work. And sure, Jesus, it don't. It's shuffling back, and it's going right in the bedroom. We climb back out, and we go to the next spot, and we just get sweaty, and then I'm frustrated with myself for trying it. But southeast is so true on most of my spots, and it's a great win for my farm, boy.
Yeah.
It really is.
Yeah.
And northwest. I got southeast in the morning, northwest of an evening. It's really, really good. I don't know what kind of winds prevailing winds are. You got different ones, no doubt, in suburban areas.
They're always a lie.
Yeah.
It's like I expect a certain directional wind, and when I get there, it's not it at all. And so I'm hunting outside of St. Louis, and it's the foothills of the Ozark Mountains. So you get a lot of topographically influenced winds,
especially this time of year because we're full foliage, and foliage has crazy effects on wind. Doing this, doing that, and doing this, it's really bad.
So when the leaves fall, it gets a little more true.
Yes.
What's predicted.
Yeah, it does. And wind speed changes it. Wind speed, it may do this and then hit a wall over there and then come back on you. And wind speed changes that too. 5 mile an hour might be altogether different than a 12.
I've been trying to hone in on that when I look at the hourly and DeerCast because some days I'm getting these, not so great predictions and I'm thinking, well, it doesn't seem like it's horrible condition wise, but then I'll look deeper into it. It's like, all right, wind speed's really low. It's maybe a degree or two above the average, which is not great. The average temperature for that time of year. Like there's a lot of factors, whether it's cloud cover or whatever. Pressure might just be a tick low, all these things. And you're like, okay, well, I guess it makes sense.
Well, and if you've noticed, probably both of you may get out there and you're looking at maybe a good or a great or something or okay. And then all of a sudden it changes because that weather changes.
Yeah.
If you've sat in a stand any length of time at all in the evening and you have a 5 to 7 mile an hour wind, you go, oh man, this is awesome. It's cool. And then all of a sudden at 6 o'clock, it just dies. And then all of a sudden you start getting these really squirrely winds. And DeerCast usually reflects that. You wonder why it changed. That's why it's reflected in that algorithm, and that algorithm knows it just does. It takes that information and processes it.
Worked in our favor in Kansas the night I killed. We had an okay, and I said, hey, these guys say all the time, okay, still good to go hunt.
Yes. Yes.
But you're just not going to see the same type of movement potentially, or it might be later or whatever. But we get in this ground blind, and it switched to good out of nowhere because we had checked it all day long, and because it's that hourly update, it changed, and it changed to good for the last 3 hours. And when that change happened, it reflected in the movement, and they got up, and I think the wind speed died down in that case.
Was it too high maybe?
Yeah, out there in Kansas,
there,
it was a little high. So I think in that case, the wind speed died down a little bit, and temperatures ended up dropping off a little quicker than I guess originally they were supposed to.
And we've got those wind speeds are all in that algorithm.
Yeah.
I mean, we have it changing as those wind speeds change and where those sweet spots are.
Yeah.
And it's different in phase 1 than it is in phase 3 and different in phase 3 than phase 5. So all of that's reflected in the algorithm, but those wind speeds are just as important as wind direction. And I don't know a lot of people put much faith or much stock in it, but boy, we do. Early season is so different because of the foliage as to what wind speed hits that sweet spot. And when it dies in the evening, it's an absolute killer.
And it seems to die almost every evening.
Yeah,
and where
it's a killer.
you're out there and you're just like, when you start hearing the crickets and the tree frogs and the really loudly, you're like, there's no wind.
Yeah.
And deer hate it.
Not long after that, you hear,
yeah.
Crap, I'm done.
Well, okay, so explain when that happens and the wind starts dying down like that and it's in the evening, just kind of explain what your thermals then, how that then becomes the main dominant thing for your scent. What the thermals do to you.
Well, in the evenings like that, Earth is, as the sun sets below the horizon and things start to cool down, your thermals are dropping. And oftentimes as you're walking out, you can feel those spots. You'll hit a spot and you go, oh my God, God, that's much cooler than where I was, or
Dips.
it's much warmer
Yeah.
than where I was. Those are thermals, and that's what you're experiencing. In the evenings, when the earth starts to cool, those thermals drop. In the mornings, conversely, when the sun starts to warm that floor, things start to rise, your thermals go up. So you can literally get by with murder in the mornings if you've got a real high pressure morning and a halfway decent wind speed and you got a bright sun and it's starting to warm up.
It's just gonna
all
take
of a
it
sudden the
straight
thermals-
up.
It's like walking up a set of steps and you go, my God, it's hot up here.
Yeah.
But it was a lot cooler down there. Heat rises, and those thermals carry it up. So that's exactly what's happening in the evening and in the morning.
So in the evening, especially in the early season when most people might be hunting in those afternoon sits, and you think, I got a great wind. I'm dialed in my spot. Well, if you're bow hunting and all of a sudden the wind dies down to nothing, your thermals are going to pull your scent, however little scent you think you might have everything covered, but it's still something. There's still something
Yes.
attached to your
Yes.
pack or whatever, and it's going to pull it down, basically down to the terrain and suck it. You could kind of tell, like, once the deer start,
Getting squirrely.
you're like, all right, something's happening here.
Yeah. And general rule of thumb, try to hunt as low as you possibly can in the evenings. Just try to go in those low-lying bottoms, low creek bottoms, and try to keep your thermals down. Because if you're setting up there and your thermals are dropping, you're winding a lot of stuff. And you don't know where all it's filtering to,
They're smelling your whopper.
And potato nugget.
We should probably welcome our new 100% Wild crew members.
So we were telling Terry about what we're doing there on Facebook with that it's basically a private group.
It's a gang.
It's a gang
A small militia.
of geeks and dorks like us.
Boy, that's really...
Boom. Shots fired.
So Terry is interested. He wants to send a message directly to these people that are just like us. Let's hear it, Terry.
I can't believe you watch this and listen to it every day. I'm so impressed with the fact that you are enthralled with the content and the information that you get here. Two of the best actors on the planet, Matt and Tim.
You saying we're not genuine? Authentic?
Acting as though we're deer hunters. I'd sign off on that.
Okay, true.
But they do a good job. I really do appreciate what they do, and I appreciate the content and the information and the guests. I mean, it's fun to visit with a lot of the people that you've had on and pick their brain. It's been intriguing to say the least, and some pretty really a lot of guests that you wouldn't think would come on, but it's been fun. Some people you just don't know if they, number one, they have time, or whether their schedules are busy, and yet they take time out of their schedule and their busy day to come in and entertain all of us. So thank you to this group, this militia that you're talking about, the crew, the gang. That's pretty. The Rack Pack.
Well,
I like that. The Rack Pack. We're changing
like
that.
that.
Yeah,
100% Wild Rack Pack.
Yeah.
The RPs.
The crew's out. The Rack Pack's in.
Okay, we're gonna trademark that, I guess. Apply for it today.
Copyright. So we've got some new members. We want to give them a shout out. Darren Luke, welcome. Michael Dibzinski. If here's the deal. If we mispronounce your last name,
It's Tim's fault.
Well, try and say Tim's name.
yeah, story of my life.
You feel sorry for no one.
Just grow up.
We got Corey Culp. We got Chuck Ross, Tyler Pesta, Trevor Schmelzer, Zach Chopin, Katie. We got a girl in here? Whoa.
Girl.
Nice.
Katie Terhall, Blake Cornett, Trevor Seitz. All right. You're all welcome to the crew. The
Yeah,
Rack
you're
Pack.
initiated.
That's right.
The Rack Pack.
All right.
And then Shane Peck, after we posted a little post in there about the last show, he said, when I saw the title of this week's podcast, and that was Matt's Living in a Trailer, that podcast, I thought for sure it was because Matt decided to hunt opening day instead of going to the 311 concert.
So we talked in the podcast a couple weeks ago that I chose to take Miranda to a 311 concert that we had planned for months and months and months, a band that she loves. I chose to go to that instead of hunt that opening day cold front.
Pretty early for a concert. 311.
It's pretty good, Dad.
Thanks for watching, everybody.
Yeah, we're out. So, anyways, I was living in a trailer last week with Scott in Kansas. That was the title. So
Sounds cozy.
This guy thought for sure I got
Nothing
kicked
wrong
out of
with
our
that.
home. Yeah, that's Terry's. That's Terry's
That's
main.
where I live. 4 or
Is that
5
a
months a
Seinfeld
year.
reference?
Yes.
Good job.
Yeah.
All right.
So thank you, Shane, for popping in.
So, okay, back to what's happening on your place right now. So season has just been open for a couple weeks now, and you've gone quite a bit. Even though it's been warm, you're still out there, and you guys are sitting tree stands and box blinds, and you're trying different things, and you're scouting because Grandma's supposed to come in for a hunt at some point here. So you guys have had some really good encounters, though, so far.
And we have been, most of our focus has been for Mom, and she's dealt with some leg issues. She's getting up in age, and there's aches and pains that she's trying to work through, bless her heart. But she's hell-bent for election that she's going to go hunting this year and kill a deer. So we're going to accommodate best we can, and we've been doing, it's kind of been a scouting mission, a little MRI, and we've had some tremendous encounters with some pretty doggone nice bucks thus far.
Yeah.
And a lot of them have been seen already, some have not, but I've really been kind of bebopping around trying to play the wind and make sure we're not disturbing anything and making sure that we can get her in there. So we built this little bitty platform, if you will, with railing on both sides, and I've got a set of forks for my John Deere tractor, and we'll attach this platform to the bucket and to the forks. We'll put her on there. We'll take her to the blind in a buggy. Then we'll put her on the platform. We'll just hoist her up so she can walk straight into the blind.
I think you should hoist her up and on the tractor and take her through the farm like it's a parade and just have her wave on the way in and all the deer.
Kisses to the people.
Well, I'm not real crazy about taking the tractor in there.
That's what I was wondering.
But it's a tractor, and usually they don't get too juiced over it. So
go in early enough.
We'll go in early enough. Hopefully they'll kind of settle back down and or maybe come out, be intrigued by the sound. Oftentimes if you're mowing or something, they'll come out just to check it out and investigate. So but we've been concentrating a lot on Mom, and we're still hanging stands, moving stands, trimming, forest every year, spring and fall. We go through and we check every safe line, every strap.
Yep.
We'll do the trimming early spring, and then we go back and enhance it all in the fall to make sure all the shooting lanes are trimmed and so on and so forth. So, but we just moved a set a couple days ago. Moved one.
Forrest is a really good follow on Instagram because he keeps any of the viewers up to date with basically everything that's happening on the farm. I find it very fascinating, honestly.
For those that got to see him deal with that pump, we were trying to get that pump working and all that. He had to put it back together and blah blah blah.
So, what are you mostly honing in on food source wise? Because you're hunting afternoons. I know you did hunt a morning or two when the moon was setting there in the mornings and tried to hit that. But what are you focusing on right now this time of year?
Because we're surrounded by some pretty big destination feed fields that were corn and or beans, and the beans have totally defoliated now. The corn had just started shelling a lot of that, so you're cutting their bedrooms in half, if you will. So we're hoping to pick up a few new deer, but once the beans defoliate, you're looking for green, and we talk about green to green transfer all the time. So our biologic, we've been watering it, just trying to keep it alive. Biologic maximum winter bulb sugar beets and radishes, and then we just went through and planted some oats on some plots that we had lost. We went and planted biologic oats because they were fried, they were gone. We can't water them all, and I found years ago that you're better off to water 2 or 3 and keep them alive than trying to water them all. So we had to sacrifice a couple of them, but even in the ones that we're keeping alive, we planted oats in them as well. So we're really concentrating on clover and or biologic. Those two things are total green.
What's the latest you can plant oats?
You could still do it now. If you got rain coming, I wouldn't be afraid to plant it right now.
Can you broadcast it and hope the rain kind of pushes it down enough?
Not really. No. You'll get maybe a 10% germ rate or 15% germ rate because unless it's a pounder to take those seeds down in there, but you really need seed to soil contact, so you got to prepare the seed bed for oats. Yeah. Unfortunately, it's a big enough seed where it just won't go in.
The new lease, we just can't catch a break out there.
You're burnt up, aren't you?
Oh yeah, and they've done it 3 times now. We had it planted, when you should have planted. It was August, the first weekend of August. We planted, then because we wanted to hit a rain, we got the rain, but then didn't get anything after that. Then we went in, and I think we with a skid steer, we put an implement on the front and completely tilled it back up, planted it again. I don't remember when. Scott, do you remember when that was? Beginning of September, and then it didn't. We did that before rain, and then it didn't rain much after
really
that.
Got dry.
And then we went in one day and we're changing cameras, putting up new cameras, trimming some stuff, and we knew it was going to rain that afternoon, so we just broadcast some radishes and a mix, and we got a ton of rain, but then we haven't had any rain since. It's just like we just can't catch a break over there.
And that little rain that you get is almost worse than not getting any
Yeah.
because it germinates, it pops up, and it's so tender that sunlight just burns it. I mean, it don't take long to fry it, and that's literally what's happened to so many people.
Amazingly enough, what did come up from the planting,
The first one, maybe?
the second one, because we completely tilled that up and redid it, and the second planting, enough things have come up from that the deer the landowner killed, that giant 8, he was literally like zigzagging through the food plot, just like picking at the little bit of green that was in there.
Yeah.
So
It was pretty sparse.
It was sparse.
but enough to bring him in.
I can't believe it, honestly, because there's just not much there.
Yeah.
And part of that might be they may be eating it. You know, that might be some of it, but it'll also tell you how palatable that stuff is.
Yeah.
Because you've got an expansive bean field there, which I'm assuming everything's yellow now.
It's out.
So they cut them already.
They cut it this week.
So and Scott told me that. I forgot about that. But so now they're looking for green, really, really hot and heavy. So that's why it's so important, and you have no means of watering, obviously, there. So I don't know, Tim, if you got much green food source on your spots.
No, I've got one spot. It's like a 3/4 acre plot, but the deer are hitting the acorns. Like they're back in there. Like there's one oak tree. They're just like a magnet, just going to.
And that's kind of, I think, where we're going to have to pivot to, because the plots, we're so heavily dependent on that in our box blinds. You're not. That's not the style you're used to hunting with these suburbia places. But with our strategy is one big giant destination feed field that had some fingers off of it. We're thinking plant food plots, put box blinds on them, and suck the deer out of the timber. Well, we're going to have to re-strategize now because the beans are gone for the most part. We did get the farmer to keep some that we're paying for, a couple acres here, a couple acres there. So that'll help us. I mean, they're still kind of eating them, but that's going to help us more in the late season strategy, obviously.
Right.
So in the meantime, I mean, now we're talking, all right, it's time for us to go hang some sets, and because we got oaks all over the farm, so it's time for us to get in there. I was not wanting to do that because I felt like we'd have a better chance of hunting food source in blinds, but ultimately we're pivoting, and we're going to do it the old-fashioned way, which I know that's probably how most of the people listening are doing it anyways, but so we're gonna try it and see if we can knock one down.
You turn around in the blind and look into the timber.
Move the blind closer to the timber.
Just turn your chair around.
That's right. So
the other way.
Yeah, it's crazy how, like, right now acorns are just so hot, and it sounds like it's raining in the woods and you're sitting out there.
Ours are falling big time.
Yeah.
But and the green food sources, that's part of the reason that they're somewhat random, because they're so heavy on acorns right now. But when you do get a sighting, they're not bedding very far from that food source. It's pretty amazing. We're seeing the same deer at some of the same times, and they're bedded really, really close to where they're feeding now.
The couple that we are seeing consistently, I mean, it's clockwork every day almost, and they're and where they're coming out, this particular camera is right there tucked into they're basically where the bedroom meets the food source, and it's like clockwork. Come out at night and they go back in the morning.
The issue that I see this year versus last year we had a full moon on October the 1st and October the 31st. And we had a little bit of warm weather early, but boy, once it got cool, it stayed cool. And we absolutely slaughtered them last year across the team. Everybody had really good luck pretty early last year with archery tackle. Matthews, we dropped some big deer early last year. So with that being said, this year the full moon waxes on the 20th. And we just went past that in September here on the 20th, and we had some pretty good sightings. Cameras were pretty good, some big deer up on their feet during that full moon, 5 days before, 5 days after. This year, it's a little funky in the fact that we wish it was waxing full a little later in the month, because that last, I'm going to say 5 to 7 days in October is always historically really, really good for evening movement. So we're getting that about 10 days too early or 5 to 10 days too early. I wish the moon was a little later, but it's not. So people are going to have to adjust when they normally go and say, Halloween's the best thing ever. And it may still be good. Don't get me wrong. It's going to be good because it's just historically it is. But with the moon waxing full on the 20th, and it's the hunter's moon, the full hunter's moon is the traditional name. And then in November, it waxes full on the 19th, which is the full beaver moon. And December, it waxes full on the 18th, which is the full cold moon. So I just think November, I think this year some of the gun seasons are going to hit really well. Like Illinois has a gun season in and around that 20th period, 21, 22.
The first gun, that's the second gun.
Second gun, I think. That period could be really, really good for those states that have a little bit later firearm season. Yeah. Missouri could be tough. It could be really tough this year because I think ours opens on the 12th or 13th or something like that.
Yeah.
So could be tough, until we get closer to that full moon. So I think October is going to be a little harder than normal.
The lull actually may be the best part of October this year.
Could be.
Because of the moon.
Could be.
Realistically.
Could be.
So.
And we always say temperature trumps moon, and it does. If you get cold weather, it ain't going to matter. They're going to feel the need to feed. They're going to be up on their feet and feeding. The does will, and then they'll drag some of those bucks out because the estrus is in the air. But still in all, it's nice when the moon and the temperatures align, and, you get the weather you're looking for, which is what we had last year, and that's the reason we harvested so dang many deer.
So right now, are you seeing like September when that full moon hit? My scrapes just popped up everywhere on the farm, and they were hitting them hard. And that's where we found that new deer and ended up killing them a few days later. But I'm seeing my scrapes those scrapes aren't as hot and heavy right now for whatever reason. Is that what you're seeing, or why would that be that they kind of slow down on that?
We're going into dark of the moon here, and they just aren't moving as much. So if you noticed, when they dropped their velvet this year, it seemed like they held on to their velvet a little longer, and then all of a sudden, boom, a full moon hit right after they lost their velvet. They started hitting those scrapes pretty quick.
I was shocked.
And we saw deer nudging does around and kind of, bumping
Sparring
them a little
and
bit, little
too.
sparring and stuff. Almost the moment they dropped their velvet, that whole thing kicked in. And then we kind of peaked there for a little bit in and around that full in September. And I think now we're on the backside. We're going to see this little dip through the dark of the moon. And then we're going to come back out of that dip. And when we get 5 to 7 days prior, I'm going to say 5 days prior to October full, you're going to see it again. It's all going to start back over. Scrapes are going to get better. You're going to see a little bit of nudging, some more of that sparring and what have you. We've got 2 or 3 deer on the farm that are already busted, oddly enough. I don't know how they get broken up so early, but they are already. So, but I think that period in and around that full is going to be good. I just hope the weather is somewhat cooperative.
Yeah.
Mother Nature can be really mean.
Yeah. We during that period, Scott and Alan actually took the crossbow up to the farm and they killed a doe. They were kind of going on a mission we got a lot of does on the old lease, and so they were going on a mission up there to try to kill a doe or two.
Yeah,
and
I asked him what kind of head they were using, and he showed me the rage.
Yeah,
head.
So it was funny because we got these that day. They got mailed to us from Rage, and it's the new hypodermic crossbow no collar. It's a 2-inch blade, and so I was like, take the crossbow with you and try these new heads and see. And it was pretty. I mean, it was pretty deadly. The results and how far the deer ran wasn't, hit them like you should, hit her like you should, and didn't run too far. And
we should probably invite the man on to talk about his experience with it.
Well, I don't have another extra mic, Scott.
Through the magic of television,
what we
could happen.
Yeah, here, let me move over.
It's a cameo.
You guys spent a week in a trailer.
I made it. I'm here. This is close to chair height, right? I mean, do I fit in?
Yeah.
I feel
Do you know
awkward.
what to do with your hands? I don't know what to do.
Car ran real good.
There you go. So you got a kill right off the bat this year with the crossbow, with the hypodermic no collar blade. Just tell me, kind of what it was like, what the damage was, how far the deer went, all that kind of good stuff.
So I was pretty curious. I mean, we've heard a lot about the no collars in the past, and it was a new head for me. So, we wanted to try it out.
Yep.
And I took a 47-yard shot with the Mission crossbow.
Wow.
She was head down, feeding in the biologic just like she should be.
Yeah,
And
relaxed.
And just smoked her. I mean,
No
it
kidding.
actually went through a little back on the front side, but the exit was perfect.
So she was
mid-shoulder.
quartering a little bit.
Yep, quartering away, and mid-shoulder, she jumped about 4 foot in the air as the arrow hit and went down the hill about 50 yards, and that was it.
Nice.
Zalin and I kind of walked down through the timber. It was a literal red carpet.
Is that right?
Both sides,
Double
all the
lump.
way down. Yeah.
So
Good for you.
So did you punch through that far shoulder?
Yeah, dead center
Okay.
of that off shoulder was right where the exit was. So
Well, and so that's the thing about the hypodermic. It's got that leading edge on it that does really nice for separating bone and punching through that kind of stuff. And Sophie killed a buck last year with the hypodermic. It was the vertical bow version, but it was the no collar, and it was quartering it was quartering to us real hard. And those, those quartering shots, when they quarter that hard, you worry about skipping the arrow off of them if the broadhead doesn't bite. And the hypodermic for her bit last year and tore a real big hole in that deer.
Yeah.
That would be kind of a cross between a cut on impact and a chisel. It's kind of really the best of both worlds, if you will, that tip.
Yeah. Yeah. And I mean,
to your point,
really, after I picked up the arrow, we looked at it, inspected it, and checked for damage, and there was none. I expected after going through the shoulder blade, it would be a little bit tougher to kind of put back together and everything, but I didn't have any problems with it.
Nice.
So,
did you get any chiggers when you drug her out?
Only a few.
I have resisted shooting does this year because of the chiggers we've got the first doe that we shot. Man, we were loaded with them. Yeah. It was bad.
Someone asked me recently if I ever throw the deer up over my shoulders and haul them out, and I was like,
"You mean the seed ticks?"
I was like, "Listen, that it looks cool on social media when people do that, but those things are loaded with ticks,
seed ticks,
and all kinds of mites, and loaded with parasites. I don't want that up by my hair."
If you're not real careful after you get done with an interview, after sitting behind one, once they die, those ticks decide to go. They got to go. They leave. And you may get up and be covered with them. You might have thousands of them crawling on your britches just from doing a little interview behind them. So
what's weird is that a lot of times the parasites will leave me and they'll go on to the animal.
That's a good way to get rid of them.
Well, I've got to go now. I got to go to Farm and Home, get some duct tape.
Scott's got work to do. Thanks, man.
Thanks, Scotty.
What the deer we killed in Kansas, it was interesting, and we did everything you had to do with it, and I had it in the truck and on the antlers, and you start seeing them like the seed ticks were starting to crawl off. So then we start checking. Of course, we had a few, and that's something you gotta. It's interesting when that blood flow stops. They
go.
Yeah, I don't know if it's body temperature or what they figure out. Do you guys spray with permethrin for deer season?
You know what? I've got a spare set of clothes. Forrest and I both do. We keep a spare set of clothes in the buggy so that if one goes into the really, really thick stuff, and those are soaked or drenched with permethrin, so that we at least deter it. And the only reason we seem like big sissies, about ticks and all that, I got Rocky Mountain spotted fever and I was diagnosed with it, and I'm weird about it now.
Well, once you've been through it, you don't really. It's nothing to be a sissy about because it's so painful to your joints and.
Yes. You have
really
no idea.
you up.
It's bad. So that's why we're big babies.
Yeah. But as far as spraying goes, I mean, there is a smell to that. You know what I mean? Like there is some. So I do for turkey season, but I don't, and I do in the off season, like summer prep. Mm-hmm. I do always have my gear sprayed with it, but it's jeans and t-shirts and boots or whatever. But during the hunting season, I don't. I'm sure I should, but.
It kind of depends on what you have to travel to get to your spot, too.
Yeah.
And a lot of places, I'm walking through weeds and stuff and undergrowth. So I try to spray like a few days in advance, let it dry. Hopefully, whatever odors on it kind of gasify and leave the garment. But yeah, there's so many places where you just in fact, last week I was out. It was around opening day, and I hit a ball of seed ticks. Like they just hang out like a drop of water on the edge of a plant or something, and then they just disperse.
A lot of states aren't cursed with them like we are in Missouri. I mean, Missouri's got seed ticks just by the billions, and I don't know that many people experience them like we do, and I'm sure there are other states that are.
Sure Maine's
but you literally can walk through an area that looks like there's no weeds at all, and just a few dangling over, and you may have 2,000 or 3,000 of them on you. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Where you just happen to brush up against a little weed. So you never know. Typically by this time of year, they're gone. We have some cool weather and they're gone. And the chiggers are real bad. Well, we've got both. We've got ticks and we got chiggers.
Well, it's been too warm. They're not
too warm.
Not dying.
The bad thing about seed ticks are they're small enough to infiltrate like the fabric on your socks.
Yes.
They will just go through.
They'll go right through it.
Giving me the heebie-jeebies.
Same way with if you had cotton pants or something, they go right through it. So anyway.
Well.
That's always nice.
That's how we keep listeners hanging around.
Ticks and chiggers.
Freaking them out.
The Rack Pack.
All right, let's try to help somebody out.
Let's do it.
All right. The question of the day today is proudly brought to you by Leupold, American to the core, as relentless as you.
Hi, guys. My name is Evan. I have a small portion of hunting property that I hunt in Tennessee, as well as I have a small portion that I hunt in Ohio. In both cases, neighbors pretty much shoot anything that walks. Where we have some decent bucks on trail camera, and I'm wondering, is it better for me to wait till late season when the pressure's on to let the bucks come to my property, to stay on my property, or to hunt early and see if I can get it done?
That's kind of a no-brainer, really. I mean, I don't know what size parcel he's talking about, but if it's a thick, woolly, brushy patch and he's enhanced it each and every year, made it better by doing some hinge cutting and all that, and maybe planting some switch, then he could probably wait till late season and let those deer pour in there. If it's a pretty open parcel and there's not a lot of cover, I'd go after them now.
Yeah.
That's what I would say.
What he said. Ditto.
No, I mean, I definitely would think that. Like, it's based on what are the deer. If the deer are on you right now and they're already hunting, they're kind of mucking up their spot, like, I would think you would go in and try to kill them.
Sure.
That's what I would do.
Yeah, and to me, access kind of comes into play. Like,
100%.
if you think you can get in there without buggering the spot, I would want to get a jump on the neighbors and try, especially if you got a good deer on camera, you want to get in there and try to kill them before they happen to see them.
And I think a lot, like in Missouri, a lot of pressure will come from gun season. So we're lucky in the fact that we got a good head start with bow season. Mm-hmm. And I think of it in that regard, like, all right, I'm going to try to kill him with a bow before the rut happens and before guns come out and before anything can happen, because that's the reality of it. Mm-hmm. Anybody's got a shot at that deer once the rut pops in and once gun season pops in.
Yeah.
They're just moving too far.
In his instance, I think his name was Evan. Was it Evan?
Evan.
He may, reevaluate that depending on how big the piece is. He said small piece, but he's got one in each state, 2 different states. So he may look at when those archery seasons open. He may look at when those firearm seasons open, and he might wait until the moon gets right and not, if that deer's on him, he may not pressure him out of there. Just go in there when the time's right and the weather's right and bop him first time he goes in there.
Tennessee's open already.
Yeah.
What was the other state he said?
Ohio.
So, Tennessee's kind of always been known for more of an early season state.
Yep.
So you might take that approach to it, because Ohio, man, that's good late season stuff. If you got a food source nearby, or really hone in on that. So
I wish we'd have known how big the parcel was. Whether it was 10 acres or 5 acres or whatever. Or, 150.
It makes a difference.
Yeah. So anyway, great question. Thank you for asking it. Appreciate it.
Well, he failed because he didn't tell us how big the parcel was. So let's not reward
Evan, you
his
get an
ignorance. Evan, nice job. Ruin the show.
we love to discourage our viewers.
It's a rough crowd.
That's what you get for listening.
And if he would have stuttered, look out.
Oh, geez, yeah, we would have tore him up. Interesting fact.
Let the record show Terry's the one that hit the soundboard.
I thought it was the one. I thought it said Scott.
Sure. I was a stutter when I was a kid. A little kid.
What's
No,
wrong
I'm
with
not
that?
making fun of that. I'm just saying, if you can't hit the ground running here when you leave us a question,
Oh, you got to do it.
we're going to make fun of you. Not because you have a speech impediment. Let me clarify, so I don't
What
get
other disabilities can we
email
pile in
from
on?
somebody's mom that's really upset with me. I don't want to hear it.
I was only saying that to say, like, hey, you could grow out of things like that.
No, I'm going to make fun of you for that later.
Make fun of your childhood. Here we go.
Any childhood obesity?
Let's do it.
Stuttering little fat kid.
We ought to reformat the show, I guess.
I think that'd be a good idea. There were shows back in the day that I really enjoyed. One that was a kind of a crazy format was Murder, She Wrote.
Ooh.
It's interesting you say that, because you've been talking about Murder, She Wrote on this podcast the last 3 or 4 episodes, and I don't understand why. I haven't asked you about it, but you keep bringing it up.
Everyone in the world loves that show.
Just old
I didn't
people.
care for the show, but I liked the way it was formatted.
You liked Angela Lansbury?
No, I didn't care for her at all. I didn't like her.
Too much of a prude. Well,
Now-
we name it bed knobs and boomsticks.
Oh, I like that. Could be Drury Indoors. It could be Drury Outdoors.
Why don't you just call it the Rack Pack?
I like the rack back.
Yes. All right, crew members, you're getting rebranded.
And Katie Turhall, for what it's worth, you probably won't be a listener long. This is very much a fraternity. And
Although-
it's not on purpose. We're just idiots.
It very much could be another joint Facebook account. We've had that a few times.
where it's a husband and wife or a girlfriend and boyfriend. They
Sure.
got a Facebook account,
Right.
and the husband's interested, but the
she's
wife's
not.
the name on the
Yeah.
account. So,
I pity her.
exactly, we say it all the time.
Speaking of pity, let's start the wildlife word for the week. It is brought to you by Tracker Off-Road, built with the rugged dependability you need to cover whatever terrain stands between you and yo deer.
By the way, I'm gonna throw this plug in there, and I know I probably shouldn't, but that electric vehicle that
It's
they've
pretty
got,
solid.
it is badass. I will tell you that.
Yeah.
That thing is impressive. It's hard to impress us at this stage of the tail end of our
Like
mediocre
the
career.
Shania Twain song.
It's impressitive.
It's just got a lot of torque to it, and it lasts forever.
Runs. That thing goes now.
Yeah.
I'm fell in love with mine.
You guys are because you're plugging it in every night. I'm in a spot where I can't plug it in every night, so what's impressing me is how long it lasts and how many times I can use it before I have to recharge it.
And I don't know that what we're doing is correct or right by plugging it in all the time. I don't think that's the way you're supposed to do it, but we just do out of habit. We've been doing it for 15, 20 years, so we're going to continue doing that. But it lasts forever, and that thing goes, man. I am impressed to all get out. Higher wheelbase, so you can get over stuff. It's got a lot of power. You can load it down. The electric vehicle is off the charts, in my opinion.
Yeah, it's pretty solid.
So
I'm
that was a
finding-
plug, but I'm sorry.
That's okay. We get dinged. There were reviews in Apple Podcasts that this is a commercial.
Yeah. This isn't a podcast. It's just one long ad.
Well, sorry.
I'm just doing it because I sincerely believe in it. I wouldn't do it if I didn't believe in it. I wouldn't brought it up. But that thing has impressed the dickens out of me. I mean, it's
And part of it is battery technology has increased leaps
Yeah.
and bounds just in our lifetime.
Agreed.
Because growing up, if you got something that was battery powered, it was like,
That's a joke.
it's it's good for a couple of uses, and then it's garbage. But I bought a battery powered chainsaw,
got
and
one.
it's great.
It is great.
I was talking to Sal Purcell at First Farm. I was checking out. He just bought a new farm, and I was checking it out with him. And he's like, "Don't tell anybody." Now I'm going to say it on the podcast. He's like, "Don't
I
tell
won't.
anybody." But I went to
Secret
the
safe
store
with me.
and bought one of those battery powered chainsaws. And he's like, "I got a gas still big, blade." He's like, "There's no comparison." He's like, "That battery powered one will eat the lunch of the other one just because it's small, it's compact, it's easy to use. You pull it out, it's ready to
I
go
throw
at
mine
all
in my
times."
backpack and take it in when I'm going to hang stands.
Does it make much noise?
No.
No.
Yeah, but
They're
you just
nice.
hear the chain spinning on there, and like you hear a little bit of the motor, but it's probably 10 times quieter than a gas powered
Yes,
one.
Nice.
by far. I just used it up in a tree actually the other day. I cut a limb.
We need a change.
Call Ryan Narp. That's where I got mine.
Ryan.
Yep.
Got it.
Boom.
Oh, that's right. We got one. And Scott's. Sorry, I yelled at you,
You can
Scott.
see who's using it.
Apologize to the man.
Evidently, Matt hasn't
doing
pulled
the
the
work
trigger.
here?
You wouldn't want me to hold a chainsaw, so
Which end do you hold here?
It does have a little safety on the side too. You got to push to pull the trigger.
Yes. Okay. All right. So the wildlife word, it's paraspinal muscles on a whitetail are more commonly referred to as A, plumpkin glands, B, backstraps, C, brisket, or D, hams.
paraspinal muscles on a whitetail are more commonly referred to as. We always let our guests go first, Terry.
I don't have a clue, so I'm going to say backstrap. I really don't. I don't know. But because it says
Paraspinal.
spinal.
That's what
why
I
I'm
would
gonna
say.
go backstrap.
Saying B, backstrap.
You guys just both won a new Matthews archery hat.
Yes.
Nice job.
Sweet. Terry's already got his.
Whoa.
And
I
a
can
Lua
use
pull
another
shirt.
one because as warm as it is, this one's going to have sweatbands all the way.
That's right.
Yeah, I got a few of those. But yeah, you're right, Terry. Paraspinal, para usually means around or about, and so that's what the backstraps are called.
Beautiful.
Paraspinal muscles.
Beautiful.
One of the most delicious parts of nature.
I think we're having a barbecue here Friday at the
We're
office.
trying to pull the details together.
And because Scott killed that doe, we're going to have backstraps.
Oh, yeah.
Alan and Scott don't realize it yet, but they're going to make them.
Alan's the grill
Thank you.
master.
Thank you for the invite.
Oh, no, you're going to be at the farm or somewhere
see.
else. This
Probably eating our own backstrap.
we only killed one doe, so
We've only killed one.
I'm
because
saying
the
we don't have
chickers-
enough to go around for you. You guys, you and Forrest, you eat your own backstrap.
Oh, we'll get a couple.
I'm trying to be a big boy this year. Usually I've shot a doe by this time, but where I'm hunting and the safe buck, it's so tight. I just don't want to shoot a
Don't blame
doe.
you. And you know what? Because mom's coming in, we've resisted. We've been watching these bucks and keeping an eye on them. Same thing. Same exact thing. We've kind of resisted. I don't want to disturb the area, run a buck out that mom would have the opportunity possibly to harvest.
Well, here's another reality check for most people. It's so hot right now. If you kill one, boy, you better be on your game and getting it and processing it and doing all that stuff, because it is extremely hot right now. And so that's a whole different element in the early season that you got to contend with.
If you let them sit, though, they get soft. Tender.
Okay.
You don't have to smoke them.
You
They're
don't have
already
to chew
cooked.
them. Yeah.
They're already cooked. Yeah, a lot of people don't have access to a walk-in cooler.
Yeah. So
Yeah, I certainly don't. And that has been part of the calculus. Like, I don't want to deal with this.
Scott and Alan, they had checked a local place that before they went, so they were prepared. They had checked the spot before they went hunting
Good
online.
Boy Scouts.
Well, the story's not over yet. And
Boy
so
Scouts.
Scott, real late, and this is leading into our Kansas hunt. So I think he regrets all of this. But he went, they killed, they recovered, and then he went to go take it to this processor who has a overnight place that you can put your deer, a cooler.
Ostensibly.
And it was not unlocked, even though the website said it was. So he had to pile it up with ice overnight and, in the back of his truck or whatever, and then get there, playing it out to get there as soon as they open the next morning. So it's just, you got to think about all that. And they had even thought about all that in the early season. It still went south. So you got to be really thinking through all the steps.
You gotta want it.
Stuff happens.
Yeah.
It does.
And that's the deer we're going to eat on Friday.
So it's going to be soft.
I hate to miss it.
Okay.
Well, for what it's worth, our deer, I mean, it went, I don't know how far, and died, and we got it field dressed and in the cooler with under an hour. So it's going to be really good. The back straps on our deer are going to be tasty.
So that kill is actually in episode 8 of Deer Season 21. It's out there right now in DeerCast. You can also see it in YouTube, and it shows a bunch of your opening day encounters. You kill that doe, I think, on day 2, and it shows a little bit of our Kansas pre-hunt stuff, getting ready with the muzzleloader. So that episode's out and rolling, and Deer Season 21 is rolling along. Mark and Wade's doubles out there, and that episode's just taken off. Of course, you would think opening day double in Missouri. So it's been cool to watch this stuff.
yes.
Does it not amaze you how those guys get on early season bucks and capitalize each and every year?
It
It's
amazes
crazy.
me, but yes and no. Yes, because we know how hard it is to kill one. No, in the fact that he's so dialed in and analytical, and every move is very strategic
Calculated.
and calculated.
Yes.
That part doesn't surprise me. But all that being said, you could have all those traits and take 3 months to kill one.
Well,
Like,
and the
that's-
deer still have to move. That's the part
Yeah.
the indeterminate is they still have to get up on their feet and walk onto that food plot and give you a 25 or 35 yard shot. So that's the part that happens with regularity, it would seem. That it doesn't happen like that all the time.
And he hit that cold front right. You
Yes.
know, it was just a good.
It was perfect.
Yep.
Perfect.
So, anyways,
Yep.
So
All
what
right.
else, Tim?
Well, we should probably shut it down.
shut her down.
Let's do it.
We were blessed, #blessed, to have Terry join us in studio. Now get back to the farm and don't come back till January.
You won't see me for another year.
Hey, you know what? The other reason he was in here is that he was shooting ads for DeerCast, and these ads are. I think that we got to release it to the podcast crew first.
Let's do it, yeah.
because they're gonna get a kick out of it. It's very much in our lane of sophomore humor, and
You're
real
gonna
Dumb
see-
and Dumber attitude
You're
toward.
going to see a huge spike in DeerCast sales.
That's right, Terry.
And a whole new side of Terry Drury.
Terry's got a turban. Terry's got a turban.
Just what you'd expect.
That's right, and a crystal ball.
Yeah, what you wouldn't expect. That old man winner.
I sent the picture to our family, and everybody's like, "What?
What's happening?"
What's happening?"
Yeah, Willa
here?"
was like, I can't believe you agreed to do that. She told me that I don't know how many times. I can't believe you agreed to do that.
That's why we love you, Terry.
Yeah,
that's
anything for the
why-
mission.
That's
He caught
right.
me on a weak moment.
All right. Well, everyone, thanks for watching. Thanks for listening. We appreciate it. Tell your friends. Tell people you don't like.
Tell anybody, and please hit the subscribe button on the way out. So, until
luck.
next time, yeah.
Be safe, please. Everybody wear those harnesses.
Peace out.
The results are in. DeerCast said it was supposed to be a great night.
Well, here you go.
DeerCast said great.
It doesn't exist anywhere else but in DeerCast.
Hunters love DeerCast's exclusive deer movement forecast. Get ahead of your game with DeerCast.
We're adding new videos every week, so make sure to click that subscribe button and check out all of our amazing content. This episode of DoD TV was brought to you by Bass Pro Shops and Cabela's.